Selfless love does not serve to prevent its own harm. And selfless love does not serve to ensure its own welfare. Bottom line simply is this: magnanimous love, the kind of love that has captured some of our hearts, doesn't serve so that you don't get hurt. There are many of you who have experienced the hurt of a human relationship. Some of you may be experiencing that hurt right now. Let me tell you something. Jesus Christ knows perfectly well that hurt, because He endured the hurt you gave Him on the cross. Let me tell you, as a follower of Jesus Christ, if you are going to love as He requires you to love, there are times it will hurt. It will hurt deeply. It will hurt for a long time. Selfless love does not serve to ensure its own welfare. Well, I better do this so I can get in front of the line on this. I better do this so that nobody else can mess it up. Selfless love can never be selfish. Well, they didn't say mind me. It's not selfless love, is it? Well, they never said thank you to me. That's not selfless love. Jesus healed 10 lepers. How many came back and said thank you? 10%. You know, ladies and gentlemen, it just goes with the territory of being a Christ follower and loving magnanimously. But I'll tell you what selfless love does do. Selfless love does serve for the sake of the one being loved. It's the only reason Christ ever came to earth, is because He loved us so much that He set aside every self-interest He could have possibly had and said, I'll go and die for you. Selfless love does serve in the way it likes to be served. Sarcasm sometimes has a place. Sometimes. Very few times. Maybe not. I remember one day riding in the car with my daughter. She was taking me over to Kohl's, and I had just listened to a message by a guy, and he made a great statement, and I thought I'd try it out. I turned to her and I finally got her to stop talking, and I looked at her and I said, listen, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me. Just be careful how you tell me. Most people stop listening when our tongue goes wrong. Selfless love does serve the way it wants to be treated. And then finally, selfless love does serve, whether it ever receives such service or not. Ladies and gentlemen, the bottom line is, we do not love magnanimously so we get something in return. We love magnanimously because that's the way God loved us. The truth is, Romans tells us, herein is love, that even while we were yet sinners, Christ died for the ungodly. Love was already demonstrated whether it ever came back to be. There are times in the relationships, in the development of relationships, whether it's in the body of Christ, or in the home, or at work, or with complete strangers, it'll never come back to you. Do not stop loving. Jackie DeShannon was right. If there's any evidence in the world around us today that they desperately need love. But they need love of a certain kind, and it's only found there. And it's found in a few isolated places on the face of the earth to this day. One of them, thankfully, is right here. I can tell you, having been to a conference for the last 2 days, it's nice to come home. I can tell you that there are times here that I know things don't always go right, but let me tell you something. It's my purpose in life to make this the most loving place on earth, to make it heaven on earth and a safe place to come. Why? Because that's what Jesus Christ wants us to do. He says in Matthew 11, "Come unto me, all you who are heavy, burdened, and laden down, and I will give you rest." I don't know any human being on the face of the earth who doesn't want the rest that Jesus Christ can give. He doesn't take away the frustration and the rat race of living the life in the world we live in, but He will unload your heart. If you're waiting for somebody to repay you for the love you've shown them, give up. Because it may never come back. And I know far too many people who've been jaded because they think it ought to be reciprocated. Do you think the world loves Jesus Christ that way? Did you love Him that way before you came to faith? Come on. I stand here and tell you this morning I didn't care one whit about Jesus Christ before I came to Him in faith and understood what His love was all about. There's 7 billion people on the face of this earth this morning. Less than 1% of them know this love. You think we have a task to do? And I'll let you share absolutely. Where does it begin? In that song we sing. And it only begins there. And it only happens when we decide to let it happen. We don't love by proxy. I don't love for Him. He doesn't love for me. I don't love for your son. Your son doesn't love for me. I don't love for the people halfway around the world. It's done one heart at a time. It's done when we say, Lord, change my heart to be like you. And if that means I get killed on a cross, then let me love that way. Deliver me